Morning, Sakani. Sorry for yesterday afternoon or yesterday night. I was quite tired, and I'm sure a lot of things didn't make sense. I just want to explain this before we go any further. Okay, as to which formula do you need to use when. So I'm going to use this example because it's very comprehensive. It says here a farmer buys a combined harvester at a cost of 1.3 million. The depreciation on the harvest is calculated at 12% per annum on reducing balance method. Calculate the book value of the harvester at the end of 8 years. So here what you need to do is simply find the value of A. Because they told you that we are depreciating using the reducing balance method. So for you to find the value of A, all you need to do is simply use the compound interest formula of depreciation. And the compound interest formula of depreciation is A is equals to P into 1 minus I to the exponent of 8, because we are depreciating this over 8 years. So for now, I'll just write N, and we do have the current value of this asset. The current value of the asset is 1.3 million. So where there is P, I will simply put that 1.3 million. Where there is I will simply write the depreciation rate. And then where there is N, I will simply put in 8. Put this into your calculator. How much do we get? So the value of this harvester will be 218,103,808. Okay. Now, after calculating that, they said to you in B, this is A. In B, they say, calculate the expected cost of the new combined harvester in 8 years' time if the inflation is estimated to be 5%. So when they talk about inflation, remember you have to use the compound interest formula. Where P is simply the current value of the asset. In this case, the current value of the asset is 1.3 million. And the inflation rate is 5%, and will simply be 8. Now, what is the value of this harvester after 8 years? Note that even with yesterday's example, it was pretty much the same. It's just that with yesterday's example, they gave you what the value of the item will be after 5 years. Here we have to calculate it using the inflation formula. It gives me the value of the harvester after 8 years will be 1,920,692,077. Question is, how much extra will this person need? Now it says here, if the farmer sells the old harvester at its book value at the end of 8 years and uses the money as payments towards the new harvester, calculate how much additional money he requires. So in this case, we have to calculate the required money by taking the value of the harvester after 8 years, which is 1,920,692,077, and then you minus the book value, which is 218,000. 103,808. Okay. Now let's check how much will this give us. It will give us 1 million So this is what will be required. Now, when it comes to sinking funds, please note that when it comes to sinking funds, unlike loans, you have to use the future value. With loans, you use the present value that we did yesterday, okay? But when it comes to sinking funds, remember, sinking funds are regular payments that we are making to the fund to save for a certain cause. Like, for instance, if your parents were saving money every month for the past 12 years of your schooling to make sure that you have money when you get to varsity. So that is what sinking funds is. It's simply calculating the future value. Now let's see what D says. D says the farmer sets up a sinking fund and plans to accumulate 1.5 million. So that 1.5 million, that's what the farmer is planning to accumulate. So the farmer is planning to accumulate 1.5 million. So that 1.5 million is simply F. All right. And then it says, well, at the end of 8 years, so we know that N will simply be 8 because we will be making 8 payments, all right? And then they say calculate quarterly. You need to understand that when they talk about quarterly, they're talking about a period of 3 months. So 3 months will be equal to only 1 period, okay? Meaning that 6 months will be 2 periods. 9 months will be 3 periods. So basically that's how we're going to calculate it. So your payments will be made after every 3 months. And then they tell you that we need to calculate quarterly payments. So obviously in this case, we don't have X because those are the payments that we need, okay? And then they said to you, the first payment is made in 3 months' time. So the first payment, when they say it's made in 3 months' time, they simply tell you that it is delayed. When the payments are delayed, this is the formula that you have to use. F is equals to X into, open brackets, 1 plus I to the exponent of N minus 1, and then you will simply have this, and you divide this by I. Note that if payments are delayed, it means that they will be made at the end of every 3 months until you are done. They gave us I, and they said to us I is equals to 12%. So I'm going to take this 12% and divide it by number of quarters in a year. A number of quarters in a year will simply be 4. Now I can now start making my substitutions. Where there is F, I will have 1.5 million. Where there is X, I'll have nothing because that's what I'm trying to calculate. Hence, I put a question mark next to it. Where there is I will have 12% divided by 4 to the exponent of N. And in this case, note that I'm going to multiply that by 4 because 8 years, each year will have 4 quarters. So 8 multiplied by 4, how much will that be? That will be 32. and then you divide this by. All right. Now we're going to try and calculate the value of x by isolating x. I started first by multiplying both sides by 12% over 4. And then I'm going to divide by this whole bracket here because I'm trying to isolate x. And here you will get the value of x when you put that into your calculator. So x will be so these are quarterly payments that they have to make every quarter for the next 32 quarters. Remember 32 is simply 8 multiplied by 4, which is the number of quarters. Now let us look at this question that you just asked. Please note that you're given two x-intercepts, and then they gave you the turning point. Actually, not the turning point, but the y-intercept. Please note by giving you the y-intercept, they're simply giving you d. So we know that d is 20 already. So we just need to find the value of b as well as c. When you're given the intercepts, please remember to use this formula here. We do have the value of a. The value of a is the coefficient of x cubed, which is 1. We do have the first x-intercept. The first x-intercept here will simply be 5. So it will be x plus 5. And then we also have the second x-intercept. However, with the second x-intercept, please note that it is not given. The value is simply not given. So I'm just going to call it anything. Let me see, what can I call it? I'll just call it P. So I'll just say this is P. But because it will be the same x-intercept, I will simply square this because the graph touches that point twice. If the intercept is also a turning point, you just take, let's say this was simply 6. So we're going to say that the x-intercept when we express it was going to be x minus 6, but we're going to square it because it is a turning point as well as an x-intercept. So you just reverse it and simply square it, or you simply use that formula. You have two brackets that are the same. Okay, so we need to calculate what that x-intercept is, and for us to calculate what this x-intercept is, we're going to use the point that is given to us, which is 20. So they gave us this. So where there is y, I will simply substitute 20. Where there is x, I will substitute 0, and I'll end up having this. And obviously, if I try to calculate p here, it'll simply tell me that p is, this was multiplied by 5. So I will simply start by dividing both sides by 5. So I'll have 4 here, and then I'll be left with p squared, meaning that the values of p will be 2, which is plus or minus 2. Okay, I'm not going to consider the -1 in this case, okay, because you can tell that our x-intercept is positive, so I'll simply take the positive one. So if I was to substitute that into our given equation, this is what I will have. We do have p in this case. P will simply be let me just simplify this. To break the squared bracket, you will simply have and this will simply give you now any like terms and all like terms will have I made a mistake here. This is plus. So I will end up having meaning that B will be 1, C will be -16.